Hello everyone, welcome to Healing Talks. My name is Carla and I will be your guide through these inspiring dialogues. In Healing Talks, we explore the meeting point of spirituality and science, ancient wisdom and modern understanding. Let's dive in. Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode. Today we will dive into some of the most important questions for men. And we invited someone very special, Oscar Andoni Alonso Delgado, who is a founder of the Gathering of the Men. Welcome, Oscar.
Thank you so much, Carla. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here and providing a space for men. Thank you.
Thank you. In nowadays, from my point of view, I can see the women's consciousness really rising, and the men conscious moving can be really behind, like a little bit behind from the social perspective. Can you tell me how you see this polarity, how we move in this world, and why maybe the women consciousness now really rising up and the men a little bit stayed behind?
Interesting words. I get it. So what I've come to realize, Carla, is what I've noticed is that when I started growing up and being surrounded by both men and women, that many times out of the conversation, when we would finish a conversation or we would just share our emotions, that the thing that always would come up is they would always tell me like, Oscar, I wish there were more guys like you. And these were either from men or women telling me this. And there were always two things that would come up for me. And the first one was like, hey, I know there's more men like me. And the second one was, men, what are we doing? What's going on? And the beautiful thing in this question was there was never really a sense of judgment that I would feel towards men, because I've also seen it's not an easy, yeah, let's say, responsibility to be a man, also, especially in this world. So I think if we talk about the things that you mentioned, as in how can it possibly be that the female, they seem to rise more than the men do? It's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic because what I think is that men, um, they're seeking their place back in society again. And with having said that, they're seeking their place, their parts of themselves back in society again, because it seems like there's only part of the spectrum that is allowed in, that is allowed from a man to be there. And many times these come sometimes with, let's say, being strong and being secure and being always the rock. But we as men also deal with, let's say, emotions and insecurities, and I believe that in this process of men figuring out themselves, that women maybe perhaps started to feel a little bit unsafe, because normally it was always the men who would give them the grounding and would be there for them in their protection. And the men are also, let's say, maybe finding their place, that maybe females always felt like, if they don't do it, then it it guess I guess I will have to step up for myself, and we have to step up as women as well in order to do this. So suddenly they became like such a shift in dynamics where women started to take responsibility, also maybe in a sense for men, while they're trying to figure themselves out and also the stuff that they went through. And yeah, rising up to, is it consciousness in women? Interesting topic, I believe, but for sure a sense of responsibility that started to grow among women, which for me reminds me sometimes of how, let's say, the boss lady arose, or maybe the very caring mother that would also rise. And where lies the responsibility? I think both men and women. I think it's men who need to find their way back to themselves and be okay by first being with men again, and then making their way back to women in order to, yeah, let's say, not create a balance, because I don't believe in balance, but I believe in balancing. and yeah, to get their way back also to the female where they are able to relax, and a man can relax because he know what he's capable of doing and he know who he is. And I believe that that's where the, yeah, let's say the positions, the differences in there. So do females feel more than men do? I'm not really sure. Do females have easier access to expressing it and to talk about it? Yes. And I think that's where the work lies for the men also, to seek places where there's brotherhood, where they can be received in their full, total, complete self, however that may be full of rage, may be full of grief, may be full of insecurity, may be full of joy, because even joy has become a thing to express nowadays. And it's in this journey where men are allowed to for a moment to lower their guards and to be like, ah, here I can be. I don't have to hold up the prestige of myself or to be the protector of the women or the rock, but simply just me being. And yeah, that's the journey, I would say.
Thank you for that perspective. I would say like there is maybe a little bit more pressure on men from us, like from women, because let's say, for example, in 50 years, the rules for women really changed in the world. Now we are able to work as a man, we are able to manage finances, we are able to do almost anything what men can do, and it wasn't like that always. So it's really like new role playing for men, because you have to get used to a new concept of woman itself, because we are really like new age women. And I can tell, I guess for all women, we are expecting a lot from you, and it can create a lot of pressure in your career, in relationships, in your like providing families. How can you handle this pressure? Because I believe when you are start your journey, there are many things which start to open. How can you handle this pressure from us and from yourself as well?
Yeah, good question. And I think first of all, um, if you look at the way, if you look at suicides in the world, 75% more or less is men. So it's all, for me, it's also interesting to see like, okay, what is it that why men, why do they decide to step out of their lives? And many times what I see is isolation. And I believe this is what is the medicine, the healing part about coming back to oneself. And we used to live in tribes and we would all have functions. And I believe that we as men in this process, because we don't have enough, let's say, role models around us in our environment, that we tend to isolate ourselves us, and we're always just thinking like, ah, shit, when I feel insecure, I feel all this pressure, I'm dealing with it, and we don't feel like there's a place for us to express, to observe. So we suppress, and we all know the consequences of suppressing all these emotions and things that roar and move through the body, that actually need a place to be carried, to be accepted, to be received. And I believe that the way the medicine in all of this, I believe for both men and women, is collaboration, is tribe, is really coming together, and to make this not a problem of the men. This is a problem, or let's say a case, that actually lies in between both men and women. If the men deal with something, then look at it, let's look at it with the men if it's a manly part, and let's look at it with the women if it's something that they can add on to as well. Because I think nowadays, and I get it, Kala, I mean, if I look at modern day society, if I look at all the wars, like, I don't know the exact numbers, but 9 out of 10 times it because uh, the let's say the fuck up of men, the stuff going on because of the greed, or the stuff that they carry. I know it's there, We can't help it. But it's important because I believe there's no bad people, there's only troubled minds. And I believe that this is the perspective we all should adopt, because what I see now is we're blaming the men. We from the other side are maybe always saying like, yeah, but the women are not giving us the space that we need. No one's gonna win from this perspective. Where's the common understanding? Where's the common ground that we're trying to find? And I get it, because we carry hurt, we carry grief, we carry any types of tension towards the other gender. So I get it's there. I get it. But keeping it and maintaining this blame is not gonna solve the problem. The solving the problem is again going out of isolation, going out of the blame game, taking responsibility for what's genuinely yours, and creating responsibility for what's there in the middle that we're both trying to get to. And I believe that's where the healing lies. And I believe therefore we both need to soften, trust me, because I see it sometimes in women, the men, and I obviously stuff happens. I get it. And both we also feel the contraction in having to meet up to all these expectations, and needing to be the rock, and having to perform and to show up and always be there, and it brings us even in a bigger situation that we don't even dare to do stuff anymore, because we know we're gonna be blamed, and we know there's gonna be something coming at us. So yeah, how do we create a space for ourselves to step into it again, if there's no space maybe that feels safe because we're still in the blame game? How And I would love to see, like, what I know also from Healing Festival, to serve and move as a tribe. Like, back in the days, the problems would be everyone's problem. They would come in the middle and we would talk about them, and we would put aside all the personal stuff. But what is the key component of this conflict, or this disbalance in the field that we're trying to solve? And I believe a way of talking is that we need. And back in the days, I think until 8, the men would stay with their mother. They would get the nurturing. And after their 8th year, they would go into a certain initiation. They would get the kick in the butt from the father, but tough love in a good way. So I think the time after we do this with the men, we need to come back together also. But the time men need it among men, to have a place where they feel safe, where they don't have to perform, and then from this open space and authenticness, to come to a woman and to also dare to say to you, Carla, like, hey, I don't have the answers. I'm afraid. I feel insecure because I have this feeling that I always need to perform and live up to this expectation that I got in my hand. It's getting me crazy, and I'm losing the connection with you when I do that. And that's what I don't want. I mean, I think if someone would tell me this, my heart would soften, and I would be like, okay, I see you now, and I believe that this part of seeing each other is what's needed.
It's so true.
Hmm.
Just soften and gather, because not
Yeah.
only for men but for women as well, it's so important to be surrounded by other women and support. Feel the support, feel the oneness, and but this competition, this competitive mind is so strongly, I can say it's rooted in our subconscious mind. How
Hmm.
can we how can we help ourselves if we feel the competition? Because I believe everyone still feels it sometimes, um, that we want to fight against each other, or we feel jealous or something like that. How we can start our journey to release this competitive mind, because it's
Yeah.
so, it comes from our most wounded parts. How we can start to releasing these wounds.
Yeah. Beautiful. Um, I mean, it reminds me of a conversation that Daniel Goldman, he's the writer of the book Emotional Intelligence, and he once had a conversation with the Dalai Lama, and they both kind of came to the conclusion where they said it all starts with where you are and who you're with. It all starts with where you are and who you're with. So for me, the moment we feel off, the moment I feel off, the moment women feel off in a place or with the people, it's already an invitation to understand what are your move towards and what are your move aways. And I believe the more we start to pay attention to the places that we're at, the more we're starting to understand, like, I need people actually who are willing to take responsibility for what's in the way between them and love and full connection. And that's when we start to go to places as, let's say, Healing Festival, because we feel we're surrounded by like-minded people that are willing to also take responsibility for the global, for the collective that we all move through. And that's, I believe, where we start by really looking at, like, okay, if something feels off, if some place feels off, it means you shouldn't be there. So simply just look at the contrary and move towards that. And I believe that that's a natural movement where we already move away from competition, I believe, because we make a conscious intention to look for other places, to look for other people who are also willing to look at all those, let's call it, wounded parts within ourselves that are in the way of authentic connection and open and loving connection. And I believe that that's where the healing really starts, to seek these places. And Kala, I would love to ask you a question, by the way. Is
Yeah, you can.
okay, it's when I, for instance, think about it, and you as a woman, if a man would come at you, and this is from a man's perspective, also to let them see how this can possibly work. For me, what I've started to notice, if I would come at you, so let's say I'm a friend of yours or anything, and I would come to you and I would say, Kala, I actually feel afraid of fully connecting to you because a part of me is still linked to a past experience where I really couldn't. But the reason why I'm coming to you is because, not because I want to run away from you and I can't connect. The reason why I'm actually opposing this is because I don't know how to do it, but I want to connect to you. Would this situation be more encouraging and feel more trustful than necessarily being the perfect picture, hands-on, cool, tall dude who says like, "Hey, I know it all"? What works for you? Or is it someone who comes authentically from the core and expressing in his full nakedness what's truly going on within the system? I would love to hear really how it is for you.
For me, the openness and really like nakedness, not of
Yeah,
your body, but of your soul and your emotion, like be truly who you are.
yeah.
It's the it's the hidden gem.
Mm,
It's it's what I it's the reason why I love people and why I stay close to them and keep them close to me, because everyone has shadows.
yeah,
Everyone. You know, when you are light, you you have shadow. It's nature, and sometimes we are trying to act just like the good boy or a good girl, but then suddenly something really hit us and we go crazy. So it's always like the communication is the key of everything and of everything. So show your weakness. It's the biggest strength. It's a paradox, but show your weakness is the biggest strength, because I can see you and I also know how to behave. I also know what words to use to help you and also me, because when you feel that you want to get to know someone, you really trying to do your best to understand him or her, you know, and you have to take care of this relationship from the beginning, like really listening, not just that you want something from that person, but listening, not by your ears but by your heart. Because you say something that you I don't know what exactly what words you used, but I was listening through my heart, and my answer to it would be first ask you about your feelings, how you feel, maybe for the story, how it started, like what's the reason, what's the cause. And I want to say something. Like a year ago, someone asked me what success means for me, and I answered, success for me means how safe people around me feel. Like if you are feeling safe around me, it's success. Because creating safe space, it's the base for everything, and everything is welcome.
Beautiful. Can I add something to this as a
Of
reflection?
course. Go.
It's I love it. Thank you for this beautiful, in Dutch we say voorzetje, as in when you pass the ball and someone just has to tuck it in. What I hear from your words, and that brings me back to the essence. For me, someone or a woman or a man doesn't feel safe with someone who necessarily has the biggest muscle. For me, in order to feel safe with someone means for me that you know who you're dealing with. And I think this is the core of the essence of what we have lost. We don't know who we're dealing with anymore because we're putting up so many masks. We're putting up so many ways to express ourselves, to show how we should be. And I believe that because we wear so many masks, we don't know who we're actually dealing with. So unconsciously, we don't feel safe because we're like, uh, who are you? Am I dealing with you now? Or what part of you is in the middle? But if we would simply just say like, hey, you know what, Carla, I'm gonna leave my mask here. This is me. Then you'll probably be like, this is him. Look at him. This is him. And suddenly we're like, yeah, this is him. I know him. I trust him because I know who he is. I know who she is. And I believe that that's the whole essence, the core of what we're trying to get to is, can we create, as you beautifully put it, can we create success? Can we create through that these beautiful safe spaces among each other, also for men around women and women around men, to create safe spaces where we don't have to wear any masks, that we're simply allowed simply to be there with them, even if we have them with our masks, but feel like, hey, I notice I don't need them here anymore. But as long as we're putting on the blame game, like, no, but you this and you that, and the men this and the women this, we're never gonna lower our guards. We're never gonna put away the mask because we don't feel safe. So where do we go? We seek women among women. Yes, and these men and this ex guy and this happened, and the men will be like, ah, man, I can't seem to get to live up to these expectations of women. And even though I want to, but it seems like they already closed the door even before I got there because of some ex-boyfriend. And so we lose. But the more we tend to, yeah, create these safe spaces within ourselves and with each other, and being witness in that space, and feeling that we don't have to actually carry these masks anymore that we're actually carrying, to be like, oh shit, maybe I don't need this one, let me put it here, and still being lovingly received. Hey, I think all the problems in the world will be finished.
I have one tip for listeners, which was really helpful and which still is really helpful for me.
Yeah.
I taught it in yoga. Always communicate from the I, like I
Yes.
feel, not it really protects you from blaming. Communicate your feelings, that I feel something, I felt something, I did something, not you, but
Yeah.
me. And from that point, it's really helpful, especially in relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's tip from my side. And I want to go now for talking about your beautiful project which you started. It's all about gathering, I believe, because the name is the Gathering of Man. Can you tell us more about it? Why and when, and what's the purpose of this beautiful, beautiful project?
Yeah. Thank you. The gathering of men. Well, if you hear the words, it's literally man gathering together. And what I notice is that, for my own experience, speaking from I started to notice also that I didn't really have I had friends and I had good conversations, but I noticed that there was a bigger potential within myself that I felt like I wanted to explore. And it didn't only have to do with the depth of conversations, but also the not the depth but the height and the size of my dreams. And I noticed I missed the place to sit with guys to have legit conversations about everything that was going inside of me and that I wanted to manifest externally. And then I also started to notice that there weren't really that many men around me by that time. So then I thought, like, you know what, this is literally how I started, by gathering the men. So this was the whole thing. And so I started gathering, and we started with maybe 8 guys in the beginning. We would sit in a small room, sit there together, and we would talk. We didn't even know what to talk about, but we would talk about life. And we started to notice that there was a lot of medicine in this and a lot of healing for the people, that they started to say, like, hey, can I bring another brother? So we started to expand, and eventually also leading up to events that we would organize for 80 plus men, bigger groups of 100, that they would just, people would show up. And the funny thing is, there was little to no promo going on. So eventually, what became as a small initiative just for myself actually became a cause that was way bigger than myself. And as we can see now, way bigger in the world. So the Gathering of Man is an initiative that actually promotes brotherhood and a community, a sense of community and a sense of belonging. And I think this is the base. And through that, through belonging and through community, we run through ourselves, and the stuff that comes up will eventually have a place to be held. And also, I think sometimes people think, I'm not sure if you noticed it when they talk about men's circles or women's circles, that something has to be wrong with you, or you have to be in deep shit. I don't know what's going on, but I don't believe it. I think, like, hey, it's such a beautiful representation of life, right? To be in community, to move together, and to actually have a place where you can just be. So at the Gathering of Men, we don't just focus on what we call the healing as we know it, as in the gritty shoveling, taking out all the deep rooted shitty that's in there and all the traumas, but simply also acknowledge that a lot of the healing comes actually from expressing joy, from creating a sense of connection, for sharing moments of food together, for having a dance together. That not every that having doing exercise together, to go for a walk, that it's not always sitting in circle and necessarily having to cry, but to realize it's more a movement that represents life, which has the polarity of what we call the heavy stuff, but we should also be there for the light stuff. And this community actually creates this space, this hub for men to come in and to simply be themselves. And sometimes the biggest vulnerability for one man is joy, is expressing joy. For the other one, it's expressing movement or a form of dance. For the other, is expressing a sense of shame. And this is what is all in there, to really have a place where we can be everything all together and hold each other accountable and be responsible for each other, and to see each other as a brother is what makes for me all the difference. And this is how we came about an initiative that started with 8, that now grew up to a community over 350 men now, more or less. eating together, doing hakas together, doing sports together, sitting in circle together, co-working, building businesses together, simply for the sake of, hey, there's a place for you. Let's go. Everything that you carry, you can come here. It's okay.
I
Bring
really
it.
want to see 300 men doing haka.
Yeah,
It has to be so powerful.
yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
I know you will be leading with your friend, I believe, a workshop on working with anger at Healing Festival, and I believe many men, maybe even women, struggle with anger. They are suppressing it or either expressing it in the way which don't serve them. What we can expect.
Oh, this is your question?
Yeah, what we can expect
Okay.
at the workshop, what they will be doing, because imagine a man who's never been in men's circle, who's never attended any healing session, but knows that anger is a challenging thing for him. What what you will be doing there with them?
Yeah. Yeah. What we'll be doing to them? um, so anger, in the sense, if I may translate it into, we put it into the category of let's say the dark masculine, which means is more, if we talk about this sense of haka, it's actually what, as you said, Kala, is we as men have never really had a place where we were allowed to express anger or rage or anything that's kind of like built up, because there was never a place for it, or people weren't able to contain it, to hold that space for it. Well, back, if you look at it, it starts from very young. We're not allowed to shout anymore, to cry, and we're being told to be silent already. And that's where it starts, because we have to behave, and because we never really got a place for us to suppress, this starts to build up, and we think there's not really a place for us to give expression to that. So we talk more about the dark masculine, in the sense of the warrior fire that also lives inside of us, that sometimes when it has to show up, it has to show up, and it can come out very intimidating, let's say. But what we're also learning in this process is that all these elements of, let's call it, anger, they can be transformed and alchemized into a sense of purpose, if contained and if know how to harness it. And that's what we're also tapping into, like, okay, how can you harness this sense of maybe injustice, or the rage, the anger, the dark masculine that lives inside of you? How can we make sure that it won't be, you're not harming other people in this process? And yes, there's a place for you to channel this energy and to actually give it direction. It actually just reminds me of the lightning. When it comes from the sky, it always needs like a, how do you call it, like something that's in the ground, right? So it can dilute, it can go away. And this is also what we need to learn how to deal with, that our body is also the vessel. Our body, our physical body is the vessel, is this cable, this wire that goes through the ground, and the lightning is maybe this sense of the dark masculine that comes through us, but our body being able to contain it and then put it in the ground for the greater purpose, to really bring it out there with fire and with power. That's one of the elements that we want to bring, also to let the men get to know this part of themselves that they, because many men think they're not masculine, or they're not secure, or they're always the soft man, because they never expressed a form of the dark masculine, like the haka, when they come forth. And it's important to be able to feel like, oh shit, it's in me, I have it. And this fire lives inside every single man. I'm always using the word fucking, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do it here, but it lives inside of them. So it's important that they get to feel it, because it will ignite a new flame, that they'll be like, okay, I can actually do this, because now I know. And the problem is the men do not know nowadays anymore because they can only guess if they can, they cannot, because there's no place for them to express it anymore. But suddenly when they get to it, phew, you can go. It's
That's
good
so
shit.
important. Yeah, that's so important to create a safe space to release and express the anger. And
Yeah.
I remember last year at Healing Festival, I met some men who were coming from the Haka practice. And
I
they
heard
were
something.
so happy and they were sharing like it was the best lecture of the Healing Festival. And they like the essence of them was really like, yeah, these are the men what we wanted here on earth. Like, yeah, so it's so important, and definitely come to Oscar's workshop. And one last question: is there anything what men can start doing right now to shift their approach to anger? Like any technique, any tip from your practice, from your life, what can help them right now, right here, or after this talk?
Is for sure is create separation. So for me, how I call it disconnect, create margin. So for me, it's I talked to it today actually in a coaching session. It's reaction between response. And for me, reaction is what happens in the moment, impulsively. We step in and we're there. Where response comes from the word for me, responsibility, which is the ability to respond. So for me, it's creating a margin, a disconnect, a moment of not fully stepping into it yet, but feeling it's coming. But also, for me, what always helps is obviously for me the body's key. So the body tells everything and tells exactly what's going on. So for me, it's also taking a breather. If we're getting into a situation where we feel we cannot contain it, step out. For me, step out, take a breather. You can feel it. It's the body. It's the heart rate starts to go faster. Probably your inhaling becomes faster. You can feel that it contraction comes. And then for me, the goal is to break the cycle by simply taking a breather and also allow yourself to say, like, hey, I need a moment. Let me come back to you. This is not the moment for me. That's one thing, to step out and claim it for men. And I think that's an important element that we can also bring in is expressing needs, understanding what it is that you need in order to, for yourself, but also for the situation. And maybe that need at that moment is like, hey, I want you just to listen, or I need to take a step back. uh, those are clear indications. And for me, what really makes a huge difference, and a good brother of mine explained it recently in a way that I couldn't put it to words, but this is how he said it. And I was like, yeah, this is what I mean. He said, uh, don't speak from the emotion, but speak for the emotion. Which means if you speak from, you're in it. This is your bubble. Anger is here. But to take a breather and to calm down, to create this margin, and to then speak for the emotion, to say like, hey, I sense anger is running through my system. It feels like I actually want to shout at you, um, or I want to run away, or I want to grab something. It's a different way, and it feels way safer because now we put anger in the middle. We speak for the emotion. And I believe this is the way that we need to go to. And this is also what distinguishes us from animals, is that we're capable of rationalizing and to also create a distance by sometimes just breathe. I mean, we've been so far away from this whole structure that is, for me, constant fireworks, constant giving us signals, sensations, everything is going on. But the thing is, we as men have kind of been learned to be here. It's a lot here. It's a lot in the head, like, how should I react? What should I say? Oh, but you're not right, and this is how it should be. And to simply be like, oh shit, my whole system is just boiling up. How do I know my system is boiling? Ish, the heart rate, my breathing is high. Okay, my breathing is high, my heart rate. Step out, Create a moment, be like, oh, I notice anger is coming up in my body because of this. These are the thoughts that come up. But the first step is margin, step out, tap into the body, breathe, and then speak for the emotion. Don't speak from the emotion.
Thank you for sharing. It was so nice example how your work works. Thank you for it, and thank you for your time. We will see you at Healing Festival. I cannot wait to meet you in person. And is there anything else you want to share? Maybe invitation or something like that?
Can you repeat the question, Carla?
Sorry. Is there anything else you want to say?
Okay. Well, that we're super excited, and that the part of, as you mentioned, as in rage, which we refer to as more the dark masculine, is also just a trait among the whole spectrum that we're gonna provide, because we believe that yes, this makes up for one part, but there's so much that we can still express, observe in different layers of vulnerability. That is, for some, it's indeed this part, but um, let's say that everything that we will do will entice, will be about what it means being a man. If we know, I don't even know what it means, but for the sake of, can we allow ourselves to be in everything that comes, and let that be a safe space that we can all create together, so we can bring the healing on Healing Festival.
Thank you so much, Oscar, and see you at
My
Healing
pleasure.
Festival. Thank
Let's
you.
go.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you.